Oh boy. Alright. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Again, I just wanted to apologize for the inactivity. I very rarely get sick, but when I do, it's like one of the frickin' 10 plagues, which happened at the most inopportune time, as just recently I got my most viewed video ever and shot up in subscribers. So huge thanks to all of you, huge apologies on me on dropping the ball, but I look forward to getting right back in it, starting with The Pale Blue Eye. The Pale Blue Eye is a Netflix film that just came out at the very end of last year, and it's directed by Scott Cooper, who has done movies like Antlers, Hostiles, and Black Mass. What caught my eye about this movie is that it was a mystery movie, and that it starred Christian Bale. The synopsis is as follows. Veteran detective Augustus Landor investigates a series of grisly murders with the help of a young cadet who will eventually go on to become the world-famous author Edgar Allan Poe. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. The plot of this movie was interesting. A cadet is murdered on the grounds of a military school, and Detective Landor, played by Christian Bale, is hired by the academy to look into this death and find the murderer. And while he goes about his investigation, a young cadet named Edgar Allan Poe decides to assist him in his investigation and become a bit of a junior detective. More bodies start dropping, the stakes start getting higher, and the mystery continues to grow. I pretty much have to just come right out and say that this movie was very, very slow. And though there was some mildly interesting things happening at different points throughout the film, a lot of it was kind of boring. I will say that the final 15 minutes of this movie is really, really good, and in my opinion was just good enough to justify the slow journey that you took getting there. I don't know if they could have written this movie any differently to accomplish the same goal, but I'm a sucker for mysteries and Christian Bale, and this movie had just enough working in its favor that I have to give plot a thumbs up. 2 is family friendliness. The Pale Blue Eye is rated R, as there is a moderate amount of profanity. There's some blood, there's gore, sometimes from autopsies that you see of the dead bodies. There's some disturbing images. There's a very short scene involving rape. And the overall tone of this movie is relatively dark and grisly. It didn't go overboard with things, but it's definitely not a film that I find family friendly. So family friendliness gets a thumbs down. 3 is acting and script. Obviously, Christian Bale gives an excellent performance. But I won't say that this movie was beneath him. It kind of felt like it was more of a favor to Scott Cooper, as Christian Bale has worked with him on much better movies like Hostiles. And even though it wasn't Bale's most passionate performance, he still does a great job. Robert Duvall made a cameo in this movie as well, and I very much wish that he played a bigger role. But then we have to arrive at Harry Melling. Look, Harry Melling is a decent enough actor, and I know that they wanted to get somebody that kind of looked like Edgar Allan Poe, but here's my beef with this. 1, I'm kind of at odds about the fact that this movie even incorporated Edgar Allan Poe. Like, you could honestly have made this cadet some random person, anybody else, and the story wouldn't have changed that much. Harry Melling also happens to use a very unfortunate southern accent in this movie, and sometimes it's on and sometimes it's off, but it all really just came across to me like one of my friends trying to fake a southern accent at Texas Roadhouse. And it really seemed like they wanted to force Edgar Allan Poe into the script even though his absence wouldn't have affected the story, and that was an interesting choice for me. The rest of the performances were decent, but nothing to write home about. So for me, acting and script get a 50-50. 4 is character development. Augustus Landor is the main character of this movie, and while you get some exposition dumping at the beginning of the movie about his character and a lot of character development at the end, the in-between doesn't develop his character a ton. His interactions with Edgar Allan Poe are entertaining and one of the brighter spots about this movie, and honestly the development with Poe's character is very limited as well. Other than him being infatuated with this girl and a couple funny and awkward scenes of him just staring into the back of her head, he doesn't get much solid character development. None of the other characters in this movie are developed at all, and the only reason why you find yourself caring for any of these characters is because of the final 15 minutes of the movie. So for me, character development gets a 50-50. 5 is visuals and CGI. The visuals in this movie were decent. Some of the nighttime shots that they did were creative, but there wasn't anything special. There was some minimal CG in this movie involving some of the deaths, and though it doesn't take away from the film, you do notice it. Nothing really impressive or terrible in this category. So for me, visuals and CGI get a thumbs up. And 6 is rewatchability. The Pale Blue Eye is 2 hours and 8 minutes long, and it feels a bit lengthy. I'm a sucker for a good mystery, especially one that involves Christian Bale, but this movie was the definition of a slow burn. Yes, the twist and payoff at the end was completely worth it, but as far as movies go and all of the elements that go into a film, there wasn't a lot that stood out about it to me. For me, this is a movie that you watch once, you talk about it with some friends and how, oh, the ending was great, and you move on and probably don't watch it again. So for me, rewatchability gets a thumbs down. With all these areas considered, I have to give The Pale Blue Eye a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed the overall vibe of this movie. The acting performances were decent, the story itself was pretty good, and the twist at the end was excellent. But this movie was incredibly slow. It had the seemingly unnecessary subtone of Edgar Allen Poe, and it struggles to leave its viewers with anything about it that makes it stand out. Still, we're talking about watching this movie on Netflix, not going to see it in a theater, because I wouldn't recommend going to see it in a theater. But if you do have Netflix, you don't mind a slower paced film, The Pale Blue Eye might be worth checking out for you on Netflix. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen The Pale Blue Eye, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.